Right now in Germany, Volkswagen is cutting like 1 million cars from production. And electricity costs are, well, they're 400% higher than they are in China.
Yeah, that is just a staggering number to wrap your head around.
It really is. So the obvious question for today's deep dive is, did Europe's finely tuned industrial machine break down because of defective internal green policies? Or, is the building housing it actively being burned down by foreign sabotage?
Exactly. And before we pull this all apart, we need to be crystal clear with you, the listener. The sources we are unpacking today contain some highly controversial arguments.
Right. Very politically charged stuff about state control, geopolitics, green policies, all of it.
Yeah, so we are absolutely not taking sides here. We are strictly laying out the facts, the data, and the conflicting perspectives from these sources just to help you understand the forces at play.
Absolutely. So looking at the internal defect theory first, the fuel numbers are just wild. We're seeing electricity in Germany hit roughly 35 cents per kilowatt hour.
Which is massive when you compare it to the US at 16 cents or, China at just 8 cents.
Right. That foundational cost is just tearing through their economy. It's why a massive company like Lufthansa is suddenly canceling 20,000 flights.
You simply can't maintain a heavy industrial sector with a 400% markup on your base operating costs. The internal critique from the sources argues that shutting down perfectly functional nuclear power plants right now to meet green quotas is, well, it's basically economic suicide.
It feels a bit like having your house surrounded by arsonists and deciding to sell your only water hose to meet a neighborhood climate goal.
That is a great way to put it. But, isolating domestic policy completely ignores those arsonists. The sources point to this geopolitical storm they actually call the shadow war.
The shadow war, which means we're looking at organized physical sabotage happening globally, right?
Literally, the building housing the machine is on fire. The sources detail things like 10 oil tankers mysteriously burned in Myanmar, plus highly unusual refinery fires in Texas.
And the sawed-off electrical pylons in Italy.
Yes.
Which just highlights how incredibly fragile the whole system is. Because Europe operates on this 50 hertz grid, which is this massive, highly sensitive, interconnected pool of electricity.
Right, so someone takes a $50 hacksaw to a pylon in Italy. Grid operators have literally milliseconds to react.
Just milliseconds to prevent a cascading continental blackout.
And the mechanism to stop that blackout is incredibly costly. They have to frantically bid for emergency power, which spikes spot market prices across half of Europe by tens of billions of euros in an absolute instant.
Oh, wow. That interconnected fragility perfectly explains probably the strangest data point in our sources.
The condom prices.
Yes, a 40% spike in European condom prices because tanker fires in the Red Sea forced ships to reroute entirely around Africa, which adds 14 days of shipping time.
And simultaneously, that Texas refinery fire you mentioned earlier dropped the global supply of polyisoprene.
Right, the essential synthetic rubber used to actually manufacture them. So suddenly, a basic consumer good sitting on a shelf in Berlin just jumps 40% in price.
It is wild. And the capital drain from these constant overlapping crises is forcing the state into some really radical adaptations just to survive. Take Austria, for example.
Oh yeah, Austria is sitting on these massive natural gas reserves that could immediately lower everyone's energy bills. But they flat out refuse to tap into them.
Which seems entirely irrational at first glance.
Yeah, why choose to freeze in your living room rather than just burn the available fuel right under your feet?
Yeah.
The immediate assumption is that it's just ideological stubbornness.
But the sources actually point to something strictly mathematical. It is technological lock-in.
Meaning the extraction costs.
Exactly. Extracting that gas requires billions in brand new infrastructure. If they spend that capital now, they are mathematically locked into burning fossil fuels until 2050 just to pay off the debt.
So that totally drains the capital they desperately need for renewables.
Leaving them perpetually trapped, yeah.
Wow. And when the state is bleeding physical capital on energy like that, it has to compensate with extreme bureaucratic efficiency just to survive, right?
Right.
Which is exactly why we're suddenly seeing this massive push for programmable digital euros by 2027.
Exactly. Legacy paper bureaucracy requires days to clear international compliance and identity checks.
But programmable currency bakes all of that, like the identity, tax compliance, the funds, into a single instant digital token.
Right, allowing Europe to execute trades at the millisecond speed of Asian markets.
Yeah.
I mean, without it, legacy bureaucracy will literally just price them right out of the global market.
And this brutal financial math doesn't even stop at currency. It bleeds directly into public health, which I found totally fascinating. We see Amsterdam banning meat ads.
And the UK banning tobacco for anyone born after 2009.
Right. It looks like this really intense paternalism. But the sources frame it as a strict defense against bankruptcy.
Because in Europe, the state pays for healthcare, and they are looking down the barrel of a rapidly shrinking tax base right now.
So if chronic diseases like diabetes or lung cancer spike in, say, 2040, the state goes utterly bankrupt.
It is harsh financial math disguised as public health interventions.
And that shrinking tax base is the ultimate demographic wall. The demographic pyramid there is so inverted that German reservists are actually proposing a retirement age of 70 for vital tech and engineering roles.
Yeah, they literally just do not have the bodies to maintain the system anymore.
It's crazy.
So when you synthesize all these defensive maneuvers, from energy lock-in to digital tracking and dietary bans, the sources use a really powerful analogy.
Right, the autoimmune disease analogy.
Exactly. The state's frantic reactions to global hostility are mutating. They're actively devouring the economy and civil liberties from the inside out just to save the host.
And understanding this blend of self-inflicted wounds and painful adaptation gives you, the listener, a really crucial lens for reading your daily headlines.
Yeah, it's not just a simple matter of bad policy or foreign attacks. It is a really brutal combination of both.
Absolutely. And to wrap up, we want to leave you with a final thought to mull over today.
Right. If Europe actually survives all of this by transforming into a heavily regulated, digitally tracked, behaviorally optimized fortress, does it actually preserve the European model?
Or does the cure force Europe to mirror the exact authoritarian systems it is desperately trying to defend against? When you look back at that beautifully engineered smoking machine we started with, you have to wonder, are the mechanics saving it, or are they just building a completely different engine altogether?